Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are right at 8:30, so we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order here. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Brian, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Brian.
Many of you are probably aware we've been in this room the past month or two here. They're still doing construction on that other room here, so it's a little bit tight in here. When you do come in this room, you can try to fill out the seats over to this side, because there's always people that kind of straggle in late, so having open seats is, prevents disruption during the meeting when people get here late, so just keep that in mind as you're coming in. But anyway, this is a one-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday here at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. That's 301 North Main Street in Doylestown, PA. We have food and fellowship every week for this meeting, starting at 8 o'clock, and our speaker comes on at 8:30. We have a business meeting here before the group every week, 7 p.m. to 7:30. So if you want to come early and join us, become a member of this group, get into service, we could always use you. We appreciate it. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all our speakers so that others can benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. So if you're here for the first time or maybe visiting from out of town and you would like to introduce yourselves on a first name basis, we could welcome you. Anybody? Yeah, go ahead in the back there.
Yeah, I'm Tony, I'm alcoholic.
Tony.
Hi, Tony.
Right forward here, yeah.
Chris, I'm an alcoholic.
Chris. Yeah.
Not alcoholic.
Matt. Welcome, yeah.
David, alcoholic.
David, welcome. Over there, yeah.
Chris, alcoholic.
Chris.
Liam, alcoholic.
Liam. Welcome. Welcome to everybody. We got everybody? Awesome. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with a working knowledge of the 12 steps and who is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. So we do have a lot of people willing to sponsor here. If you are new, grab one of those people after the meeting. We'll always be here breaking down the meeting. Grab somebody, grab somebody after the meeting. We'd love to talk with you, get you into the solution, get you a big book, get you a meeting list, phone number. So hang out with us after the meeting if you are new. Are there any announcements from the floor for the good of AA? Anybody have anything going on? Yes.
My name's Jason. I'm an alcoholic.
Jason.
Monday night, 6 p.m., Stay Alive Literature and Step Work meeting right out here in the lobby. Myself, Miss Kara, and Gary are there hosting. This week, actually, T will be hosting, chairing, and we have Marty coming to speak on Step 1. If you're looking for a really cool meeting on Monday nights to get your week going, come check us out, 6 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
My name's Ron, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Ron.
In this room, April 6th at 7:30 p.m., Al-Anon anniversary, 3 speakers, AA, Al-Anon, and I believe an Al-Teen's supposed to show up. Tons of food. You know the Al-Anoners make a lot of food. They don't eat it. They need us there to eat their food, so get out there. We'll be right in this room. Thanks, Ron.
Thanks, Ron. Anybody else? Anything going on? And next week, this group, we will have a speaker coming in from Ireland. So it should be cool, it should be unique, it'll be very interesting. So it'll be one not to be missed. This group does have a sister group. It's a big book study meeting that meets every Thursday right up the street from here at 7:30. That's at Salem UCC Church, 186 East Court Street in Doylestown, PA. And we got coffee for that meeting on at 6:15. So again, feel free to get there early, enjoy the fellowship. If you want to get involved in the service, even better. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books to help those who cannot afford them can put donations in that jar on the table over there marked big book and CD donations. We got a YouTube channel. We post all our speakers from this group on there. I always say it's a good resource to have. We got our entire library of speakers over the year, and it's a good resource if you come here, you hear a message that you think somebody could benefit from, you can share it through the YouTube. It's a really cool resource to have. So check out our YouTube page. We also have a Facebook page. We post all our upcoming speakers on there, any events, anniversaries, celebrations we might have going on, and other groups post stuff they have going on. So again, a good resource to have to stay tied in with the happenings in AA around here. But with that, I'm going to bring a good friend of the Conscious Contact Group up here. Please help me welcome Thomas. Thomas is going to come up here. Just for today, prayer recovery.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Thomas, and I'm an alcoholic. Welcome home. This is the Just for Today prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything or anyone, not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And with that, would you please help me welcome up Miss Kara to read our preamble.
Good evening, y'all. My name's Kara, and I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. Hello. The AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Now I'd like to bring up Jason, a good friend of Conscious Contact Group. Let's give him a warm welcome. Woo!
You are absolutely the best. Good evening, my name is Jason. I'm an alcoholic. I absolutely love following you. These are the 12 steps of recovery. Number 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, came to believe a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Number 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Number 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Number 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Number 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all of our defects of character. Number 7, humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. Number 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. Number 9, made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Number 10, continued to take personal inventory and when we're wrong, promptly admitted it. Number 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Number 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all of our affairs. Please help me welcome Brian back to the stage.
Okay, this group does have a 7th tradition. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, we'll see that the basket makes its way around. There's no dues or fees for AA membership, but we do have expenses, and your contributions help us to cover the cost of food, rent, big books, workshops, refreshments, so we do appreciate it. There's absolutely no smoking on the church property. We got a good working relationship with the church. We'd like to keep it that way. They really just ask that we keep the premise clean, so be considerate of that as they're coming and going from the meeting. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. Now to introduce our speaker for tonight, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group, on loan to us from the Beachcomber Traveling Spiritual Group. Please help me welcome Alan B.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name's Alan Berger, and I am a recovering alcoholic and addict. Well, I want to tell you about my journey in the program. But before I do, I want to say a few things that I think we just don't talk about enough. Bill Wilson stated in step 12 that if we practice these principles in our daily affairs, then we and those about us find emotional sobriety. So it's interesting that the goal of working these steps is actually, after we get our physical sobriety, is emotional sobriety. Now, I've been in this program for over 54 years. And you know how many times I've heard that mentioned in a meeting? Not many times. I don't know how we miss that, but I want to talk to you about that today, because for me, the discovery of that in my life has changed my life unbelievably. I feel it has rocketed me into the 4th dimension that we talk about. So let's put that in a context. Bill said, AA is a quest for freedom. Obviously, our first quest for freedom is what? To break the bonds of our addiction, break the bonds of our alcoholism. But after that, our quest for freedom is emotional freedom. Now, I don't know what your experience was, but I know for me, one of the things that happened, I started drinking when I was 12 years old. My father died from multiple myeloma from cancer. It was a horrible thing. I grew up in Chicago, and he was diagnosed when I was 10. He died when I was 11. So I got to watch this man that I loved and cared about just whittle away. This cancer ate his whole body up. And I was traumatized by that. There's no question about it. And when he died, we didn't talk about it. You know, that was 1963. There was no hospice at that time. They took him away from our house. He died in the hospital alone. And my mother came. It was the day after Christmas in 1963. She walked in the living room and said, your father died last night. And I stood there and I froze inside. Do you guys know what dissociation is? Is when you totally cut yourself off from your experience. I did not want to feel what was going on. I was in too much pain. I didn't know what my whole world was shattered at that moment. My world deconstructed completely. I no longer felt safe. I was lost. And my mom and my grandfather, my dad's father, they fell into a very dark depression. You know, I look back, it's strange. Not one adult in my life came up to me and said, Alan, how are you doing? You just lost your dad. What's that feel like, man? Nobody asked that. No one. It was totally avoided in my family. Now, I knew my mom was grieving because she's Italian, and so she dressed in black for a whole year, right? That's what the Italians do. She dressed in black. I swear to God, I thought she took a can of paint and painted the house black. That's how strong her grief was. My grandfather, whenever I'd be with him, he would just sob. And he'd say, this is not the way life was supposed to be. You are supposed to bury, your son is supposed to bury you, you're not supposed to bury your children. Right? That's what he said. My mom said the same thing. I was supposed to grow old with this man. This is not how my life was supposed to be. Now, at that time, I didn't realize I was already getting the idea that there was a way life was supposed to be. Do you guys hear the message? Now, that was just two really profound examples. But it was happening a lot of other ways. There were a lot of supposed tos and shoulds floating all over the place. And I was accepting those uncritically. I thought, yeah, if you figure out all the rules and somehow life is going to go according to those rules, it's all going to work out. Well, that didn't happen, obviously. My father wasn't supposed to die at 39 years old. I wasn't supposed to be an adolescent going through adolescence without a father to guide me and to help me figure out some of the stuff that was going on that I didn't know how to deal with at all. So, after he died, I'm hanging out at Bobine School. I was behind the school. All the cool guys were in front of the school at Robert Square Park. I wanted to be one of those cool guys, right? So when one of the cool guys came from behind the school with a six-pack of old-style beer, he says, hey, man, you want a beer? I said, yeah, this might get me up front, right? I get accepted by these guys. So I took that drink to be accepted. But what happened was more profound than that acceptance. The minute I drank that beer, I felt okay. I felt freedom. I was okay being Alan. That was powerful. Because there was no way that within my experience that I knew how to be okay. I had all of these insecurities. Susie Walensky did not kiss me in the 3rd grade. Do you guys believe that? She just did not kiss me in the 3rd grade. You know, stuff like that. I had these insecurities and stuff, and then on top of it, I lose my dad. Well, what happened at that point? At 12 years old, I sprinted as fast as I could into alcoholism. I drank probably 6 days out of the week. I was a blackout drinker. When I turned 16, I dropped out of high school. It was interfering with my drinking and my partying with my friends. At 17 years old, I decided I had to do something to change things, right? So it was looking for a geographical. A couple of you have maybe made a few of those in your life, right? So I decided to join the Marine Corps. That was in 1969. I was 17 years old. I came home with the paper to hand it to my mom. She couldn't wait to sign it. She didn't know what to do with me. I was a handful. I was coming home drunk every night. I was working full-time, but every penny I had was going to buying booze. And when I didn't have enough, I was stealing from her. And she was working hard to try to make ends meet for our family. I had a lot of shame about that after I got sober and made a lot of amends to her about that. So, off to the Marine Corps I go. Detox was boot camp, 16 weeks long. I wouldn't recommend that for a detoxification program. There's probably other ways. Right, Tom? Ron? There's other ways to get detoxed than that. I didn't know if I was shaken because I didn't have the booze or because this guy was in my face yelling at me and calling me a slime and a puke. What are you doing in my man's Marine Corps? You think you're going to become a Marine? Are you kidding me? No, sir, I don't know what to... Would I say no, sir? He says, see, I told you, right? And they'd say, yes, sir, and then he would get after me. There was no right answer, right? None. Oh, I had a funny story. I was a smart ass. So when they would come around and inspect, so we'd be standing with our rifles, they'd come by, snap the rifle out of your hand, right? You've seen that, right? And they're inspecting, and he says, okay, Private Berger, do you like this drill instructor? Now, if I said no, I would get in trouble because I'd say, no, sir, because I heard what happened to the guy down. The guy said yes, and then he called him, you're gay, aren't you? And then he gave him a bunch of crap about that, right? So I can't say no because I heard another guy say no, and then he got all over him for that. So I decided I can figure this out, right? Now, whenever I say I can figure something out, watch out, because trouble's coming, right? Trouble is coming. So I said to him, he says, Berger, do you like this drill instructor? Sir, an opinion like that is way above my rank. It didn't work, Ron. It didn't work. Get down and give me 50, Berger. You're a smartass, aren't you, huh? I'm going to show you. We're going to get that smartass right out of you. I mean, but that's, I thought it was a pretty good try, wasn't it?
I applaud you.
Right? I thought I had it figured out. No, didn't have it figured out. I thought a lot of things figured out, and they weren't figured out. All right, so at 18 years old, I volunteered for Vietnam, so I go to combat for a year in Vietnam. In addition to drinking, now I'm, experimenting with drugs other than alcohol. Obviously, when we were in a combat situation, everybody got frosty, nobody's using, right? Because our lives depended on one another in those situations. Came back from Vietnam, I was 19 years old. Now, in addition to having a problem with alcohol, I have a problem with drugs other than alcohol. I'm getting on the plane to go to my last duty station, which was Kaneohe Marine Corps Air Station. And I had 30 days leave in Chicago. So this would be 1971. Bands like Jimi Hendrix, The Doors, Guess Who, Led Zeppelin. I mean, I'm partying for 30 days, day and night. I'd get up in the morning, I'd start drinking, I'd drop some acid or something else, and I'd go on, get maybe 3 hours sleep, and then we start all over again. So when they sent me off, all my buddies took me to O'Hare Airport, they gave me a bunch of drugs to keep the party going in Hawaii. And I had them in my pocket, right here. And I get to Los Angeles, and I have to change airplanes. Now, I've been gone in the Marine Corps. I didn't know that they were checking people before they were boarding the plane, because back in, you'll remember, all the international hijackings were taking place. So they set up a metal detector. I didn't know it was a metal. It's not a drug detector. It's a metal detector. I didn't know what they were checking. I've got these drugs in my pocket. I see them doing it. I'm way back in the line, and I'm going, oh, shit. What am I going to do? How am I going to deal with this? Now, if I wasn't using for 30 days and I was thinking a little clearer, what might I have done? Gone to the bathroom and did what? Flushed it down the toilet. I had a better plan. I told you, whenever I come up with this stuff, watch out. I decided that I would bury the drugs in my pocket in the ashtrays that were in the airport. They were filled with sand. So I'd mosey up to one, I'd move some sand aside, nonchalantly, I think, drop it in there, cover it up, and move to the next one. I think I'm getting away with this. The LAX police officer found me around and digging it up as I'm going through the thing. I go through the line, and it's a metal detector, dumb burger. You know, it's a metal detector. I walk through, nothing happens. I don't have any metal on me except my ribbons and stuff from Vietnam and stuff like that, my medals. So they're standing there and they go, Marine, come on over here. And they pull me in the back room and they put all the drugs on the table and said, you're busted. We saw what you did. You're in trouble. And I go, oh, so I don't know about you, but whenever I got in trouble, my brain started to whirl. How can I get out of this mess I've created? See, they talk about harm reduction for alcoholics and addicts. We are specialists at it. We know how to reduce the trouble that we have just created better than nobody in the world. So I'm trying to figure out, how am I going to talk myself out of this one, right? Well, I'm not seeing any easy way, but all of a sudden the guy says, hey, I see that there's ribbons. You got some combat ribbons for Vietnam. Where were you at? I said, well, when I first got to the country, I was in China Beach. He says, you know what? I was over there. I was an MP. He said, China Beach, what unit were you with? I told him. He was right next to us. So we start to talk, and he says, you know, Berger, I'm going to give you a break. I'm not going to arrest you here, but I'm going to report you to your commanding officer. So I think I'm going to the Marine Corps brig. I'd rather go to a civilian jail than a Marine Corps brig. They're tough as nails in that Marine Corps brig. So now my wheels are spinning. There's going to be MPs waiting for me. I'm going to get arrested when I get off the plane. You know how we awfulize? Do you guys awfulize? Oh my God, your head, you start future tripping, and it's all catastrophic, right? Everything's going to go. They're going to be 20 guys. They're going to arrest me, throw me down. I've got this whole thing planned out. And I get off the plane, nobody's there. I get to my unit. They've got to be waiting for me at the unit. Well, they're not at the unit. So I get my, myself unpacked, and I go into my bunk, and I say, okay, so tomorrow morning I've got to be proactive about this. I'll turn myself in and say I have a problem. Now, the Marine Corps had a zero tolerance for drug addicts. You were thrown out of the Corps, discharged with a dishonorable discharge or medical discharge or whatever they chose to do. So the next day I go in, I say, hey, Top. He says, welcome to the unit, Corporal Berger. It's good to have you here. I see that you came back from Nam. Thanks for serving over there. I said, Top, I got something to tell you before you get too carried away here. He says, what is it? I said, I got a drug problem. You could hear a pin drop. All of a sudden, he starts shuffling papers on his desk. I'm going, is this guy smoking or what is he doing? What's he doing? He pulls out a paper and he says, Berger, you are one lucky Marine. Now I really think the guy's loaded, right? How can I be I just told you I got a drug problem. He goes, 3 days ago, the commandant signed into orders a drug rehab program for you guys coming back from Vietnam. You're going to treatment. If it was up to me, I'd throw your sorry ass out of my Marine Corps. But it's not up to me. You're going to get some help. I was the third Marine admitted to that program on the third day of that program's existence in the summer of 1971. What a trip, huh? So they had no idea what they were doing. It's a brand new program. The captain in charge had a bachelor's degree in psychology. I've got a bachelor's degree in psychology. I didn't know much then. But what they did was they knew they didn't know, and they reached out to the AA community outside the base in Kailua. So I was on the island of Oahu. And there just happened to be a bunch of young people in that meeting that were following this woman around called Flowbird. Flowbird was this Pied Piper of young people. She had about 20 young people that were following the program, the 12 steps, and learning to live by this. And they asked one of those young men to come and speak to us on Tuesday nights. It was called a drug recovery session. And so here it is at the Tuesday night in July, and it's a 7 o'clock meeting, and this hippie walks in. There's 30 combat Marines sitting there, 30 of us. 30. We're in our combat fatigues. This guy walks in, he's got Birkenstock sandals on, he's got khaki shorts on, he's got a Hawaiian print shirt, his hair pulled back in a ponytail, those John Lennon wire-rimmed glasses, right? I'm looking at, what is this guy going to share with us? What is he, this guy, we're out fighting the war, this guy's protesting it. 5 minutes into his discussion with us, you could hear a pin drop in the room. Something inside me woke up that night. It was incredibly powerful. I saw a man who was free to be himself. He spoke from his heart, the language of the heart. He talked about feelings he had that I wouldn't dare share with any of you. I wouldn't talk about any of those things. He talked about being anxious, talked about being scared, talked about being angry. I mean, a whole range of emotions that I felt, but I kept very close to me. There was a part of me that said that night, if I could experience that kind of emotional freedom, I think I could make life work. If I could be that okay with myself, I think I could make life work. I went up to him after the meeting. Tom, how did you do that? He says, stick close, I'll show you how. Tom is still my sponsor after 54 years in this program. 54 years. That might be a record, Ron. I don't know many people that have one sponsor for that length of time. And it's an unbelievable special relationship. He saved my life many times back then. And that started my journey into recovery. You know, they say that if you accept that you're powerless at an unconscious level, then the battle's over. That's a very deep form of acceptance. Not a lot of people get to that level. But if I was able to, after with Tom's help, see how powerless I was over alcohol and other drugs. And after I had that discussion, I went to bed one night and I woke up the next morning and the obsession, the compulsion, the craving to use was gone, completely lifted, and it has not returned for 54 years. Because I know without a doubt what would happen to me if I start drinking or using again. There's no question I do not have the ability to control my use or my drinking. I am powerless, 100%. But what I didn't understand is that that second half of the first step was not just about the unmanageability that was caused through my drinking. That my problem started well before I picked up a drink. That unmanageability was created by how I lived my life. And that picking up that drink was just a path to that superficial experience of freedom. You see, emotional sobriety is about taking a second first step. Have you ever heard of that? You take a second first step. The second first step has to do with how emotionally dependent we are. How our self-esteem is what's called an other-validated self-esteem. I'm okay if you tell me I'm okay. I'm okay if you do what I want. I'm okay if I get what I want. I'm okay if things go the way I want them to. I'm okay if life does what I think it's supposed to do. Remember where I learned that? Do you remember? When I was a kid, didn't I? Deep down inside, I believed that my job was to try to manipulate life to make it happen the way I wanted it to be. And I became a damn good manipulator. Damn good. I could twist things around. I could make you think that this board is black, not white. I mean, it's all kinds of crazy games I'd play to try to get you to be the way that I thought I needed you to be for me to be okay. You see, my consciousness then was an I'm okay if consciousness. I'm okay if things go my way. That creates an impossible way of life. That's unmanageability. Bill Wilson described it as putting a cart before the horse, meaning that I demand life to conform to my expectations instead of learning how to deal with life on life's terms. You see, that's what growing up is all about. But we are stuck. I was stuck. We are stuck. I don't think we're sick. I think we're stuck. We're emotionally stuck. We have a growth disorder, not a psychiatric disorder. We are stuck. And we need to grow up. I couldn't see that. I couldn't see that. I couldn't see how awfully wrong I was. I couldn't. I believed that this is the way that things were supposed to be. I had that strong in my conscience. It took about 20 years, right around the same time Bill realized this thing about emotional sobriety when he wrote the 12 and 12, that this is all about emotional sobriety. So what happens then? So now I start to see that I am stuck. Now, what does that mean? The first thing it means that I make everything about me. It's all about me. She keeps poking you, doesn't she? She wants you to get the message here. Oh my God. That must be your sponsor. I mean, only a sponsor would be that loving. That's wonderful. I love it. I love it. She's doing that to her left and right. So, I make everything about me. It's about me. So if you say something, see, I used to have rules on how you were supposed to talk to me. If you said something that I thought was disrespectful, I'd say, you're not a very nice person. You should talk to me with respect. I learned today that I was manipulating you. I wasn't interested in you respecting me. I was interested in controlling you because I didn't know how to separate myself from you. You see, what I did is I took whatever you said about me personally as though it defined me. I didn't know that I existed separate from you. I was what you thought I was. I was just a mirror of whatever you're saying. So I let what you did define who I was and how I felt. I didn't have a sense of myself as having a separate existence from my environment. I was fused to it. And now I realize that's how we start in life. Of course we're completely dependent on our environment. You have to be. You know, when you're in the utero, you are totally dependent on that person who's carrying you for your oxygen, for your proteins, for your minerals, your vitamins, for safety, everything. We're completely dependent. We don't learn how to start separating and supporting ourselves until we're born. What's the first thing that we do? First thing I did was breathe. I need this oxygen. Mom's no longer breathing for me. I got to take some responsibility for what I want. Boy, I wish I would have learned that lesson, Ron. Back then, that was a prototype to making life work. Take responsibility for what you need. Don't think that just because you're here that somehow the oxygen is going to be infused in your body. I have to inhale and do what? Exhale. It's not gonna, it's around me, but I have to participate to have it. And then something else happened. Round one, guess what I started to do? Trying to walk. Now, did anybody have to tell me, hey, Berger, you've been crawling around this house for a year. Come on. Knock it off, kid. Get off those fours and start to walk. We're tired of carrying you around. Now, I know when I say this in a meeting, somebody's going to raise their hand. Alan, my father said that to me. I go, oh, my God, you poor kid. But nobody has to say it to you. You know why? You want to walk, just like you wanted to breathe. See, there's a force inside of me that I didn't know about. I got lost in my alcoholism. I let my alcoholism and drug problem define who I was. I am much more than that. I am much more than an alcoholic and a drug addict, a lot more. I couldn't see that. But that life force that was inside me, it says, hey, God, you might be able to start walking around here. You won't need other people. I wanted to take care of myself. I wanted to walk. I didn't want to be carried around because then, they're never going to do what I want them to do. I want to do what I want to do. So what do? We pull ourselves up to a table and we let go and we try to figure out how to balance, right? And we fall. And then we pull ourselves up again and we fall. And then once we get the balance thing down, right? What do? We take the first step. Then the parents go crazy. Oh my God, Ellen took his first steps. As though I graduated and got my PhD from UC Davis, right? He took a step, folks. Let's not make such a big deal out of this thing. But of course it is, right? Because you're seeing your child develop to become what they can be. So we make it a big thing. God, if they know where my steps were going, they wouldn't have celebrated. My mom wouldn't have given you a wooden nickel for my chance to make it in this world. I mean, I swear I was such a handful growing up. So I start walking. I take a few steps, and what happens? I fall. What do? Do I lay there? Oh, man, I fell. I'm not going to get this. Me, Jesus Christ, things aren't working out for me. I don't throw a pity party. I get right up. Because I don't have in my head a rule, do I? I don't say, God, you get 5 times, you get to try this. If you don't get it by the 5th trial, give it up. It's not going to happen, dummy. Thank God. We'd be a species crawling around this planet. Every time I fell, I got closer to walking. Every time. You know how many times I fell? As many as I needed to. Do you hear that? All you perfectionists out there, listen to me. Listen to me. I fell as many times as I needed to fall when I was learning to walk. Many times. I didn't have any shoulds in my head. I didn't have, Alan, you should get this figured out. You've had 20 times you've tried this thing and it's still not working out. You might as well give up on the walk and let's figure something else out. No, I don't have that ideas. I was just being without these rules in my head. Those rules created an impossible way of life. Because what happened, that happens, what I'm describing to you guys biologically happens naturally. It's hardwired into who you are, right? We call that a biological imperative. You're going to move towards becoming what you can be, towards wholeness. You see, we're wired to become whole, to become holy. That's our basic nature. But when I started to feel anxious that I wasn't going to be loved and accepted, then something else happened. I no longer grew to be who I am. I now dedicated my life to be the Alan I thought you would accept and love, that would make me belong. When I did that, I started the impossible way of life, because I did that to manipulate you to feel a certain way about me. Do you see that? If I became what I thought you would want me to be, then I would be okay. So I was no longer interested in me. I was interested in manipulating my environment because I thought I needed you to feel a certain way for me to be okay. Or I thought I needed things to go a certain way for me to be okay. Not everybody tries to manipulate people to get them to like them. Some people manipulate situations to be the best, and they think that's going to make them okay. We go a lot of different ways with this stuff. That started my unmanageable life. Now I had to try to control and manipulate the people and conditions surrounding me. That's how Bill describes it. I demanded the possession and control. This is a quote from Bill Wilson's letter. I demanded the possession and control of the people and conditions surrounding me. Now, it took 20 years for me to get that honest with myself. I think that's why a lot of people don't see this emotional sobriety thing early on. Because that's a big pill to swallow, right? That I make these demands of you. Could you imagine? I go up to Sage and I say, I want to propose to Sage. I say, Sage, will you marry me? But before you do, I just want you to know these are all the things I'm going to demand of you. You're going to have to do everything I want, whatever I want you to do it. You're going to have to make me feel good all the time. You can't have a bad day because then that's going to mess up my day. And I go through to this thing. I say, now will you marry me? I would hope Sage would throw the ring at me. Are you kidding me? But yet we do that every time. We just don't let anybody see it. Because why? Because we know we're outrageous, but we don't want to own our outrageousness. We want to be so reasonable and so thoughtful and kind, and it's a bunch of crap. It really is. You're not honest with yourself. And I wasn't. I realized how full of crap I was. I was dishonest completely. And I couldn't see it because I did not want to take responsibility for my life. I'd rather make you responsible so then I don't have to own the responsibility. If this is working or not, it's in my hands, not yours. You see, when we achieve emotional sobriety, there is no more. The word blame is gone from my language. I never use it. I am responsible for the existence I create, 100%. There's no blaming. Well, if you would have done this, Jason, my God, I could have given a much better talk today. What the hell, what were you doing? Right? No, that's not it. If this isn't a good talk for me, meaning I feel good about what the message I'm sharing with you, that's on me, it's not on him. Ron won't let me swear, so I'm feeling very restricted. Oh, God. We'll talk about that resentment later on. How do you take a kid from Chicago and tell him, get up and don't ever use a cuss word? It's like I'm dying up here, folks. Give me a break. Am I doing all right? All right. See, now I feel better. No. I'm learning to regulate myself better, Ron. Thanks for the reminder. Okay. So I take everything personally. I make it all about me. Me. And now listen, this is this was a great realization. I used to think us alcoholics and addicts were so darn special that we're so unique in what we do. Guess what? This society we live in, it's an all about me society. Every one of us are narcissistic. That's what our culture creates. Every person is. So when Bill said self-centeredness, selfishness, self-will run riot, that's the root of our problem. It's the root of all of our problems, not just what we're doing in the rooms. That's why he said, I think this way of life is for everyone, because it gets to the core problem. It's all about me. It's not all about me. That's why we say the 12 steps are to do what? To deflate your ego so you develop some humility. What is humility? Well, a low focus on self. That's the first dimension of it. There's a lot of other components to humility. It's being able to face your problems, take responsibility for your gaps in knowledge, for your mistakes. But if you beat yourself up when you make a mistake and you get mad at yourself and put yourself down, you're not taking responsibility. So quit playing that game with yourself. The way you take responsibility for something is to learn from your mistake. You cannot learn from a mistake if you beat yourself up. If I make a mistake and I start to say, Alan, you're stupid, you're dumb, how could you do that? You got a PhD, you should know better than that, you're stupid. Is that an environment where I can learn? If I was teaching you math and I was calling you stupid every time you made a mistake, would you want to keep doing math if you were a kid at 5 years old? You'd develop a math phobia. But we treat ourselves like that every time we make a mistake. That's why we're stuck, because we don't learn from our experience. When we play these games like I should have known better is nonsense. None of you should know better. You're doing the best you can and it's not enough. Get honest with yourself about it and start facing it. That's what we got to start doing to grow up. I used to think when I made a mistake, I was a mistake. That's how bad this was. Today, I see I'm just making a mistake. I can learn from that. That's called self-compassion, right? To be able to support myself, to be able to help myself grow into what I can be. And I can, and you can. If I can do this, you can do this. But I had to let go of my expectations about how life was supposed to be. How much time do I got left?
17 minutes.
How much?
17?
17? I thought I had like 17 hours. I was hoping. No, I'm teasing. I'm teasing you. 17 minutes. So let me share something with you. So it's not just what Bill observed about us letting go of these expectations. You hear in the meetings all the time, right? Expectations are what? Premeditated? Resentments, right? Right. We're engineering resentments, that kind of stuff. When I expect things to be a certain way, it's because I'm trying to control the situation. That's where my expectations come. We clean them up and we think, well, this is only reasonable. If you love me, I should expect that you want to do things with me. No. That's a separate person. That person does things that they want to do, and they don't. Loving someone doesn't mean that you're with them all the time. You see, it's those kinds of things that I had to start figuring out, that all my expectations were a problem. They weren't healthy. Bill even said it. He said it's a spiritual axiom that every time you're upset, no matter the cause, there's something wrong with you. You know what's wrong with you? Your expectations. They're off. We have no right to expect life or other people to do what we want to do and then get mad at them if they don't do it. That's what kids do. That's what children do. We need to start growing up. It's time we stop getting angry at people when they don't do things we want them to do, and start to realize, I'm being unreasonable in what I'm expecting from you. I'm sorry that I put my expectation on you instead of getting mad at them. See, that's what we got to start figuring out to do, is to see what we're really up to when we're doing that stuff. So listen to this. This brilliant psychiatrist, Viktor Frankl, he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And some of you have probably read the book. It's outstanding. But what he realized, the first half of his book was about his experience in Auschwitz and the other Nazi death camps, right? And what he was sharing in the first half of the book is what the experience was, because he's a psychiatrist. He wants to see, how do men, because he was with all men, right? How do the men cope with this situation? How can they deal with this? And what he found out is that if you expected the guards and other people to show you any humanity, any kindness, you were setting yourself up for trouble. The men that survived had to let go of every expectation they had about how things were supposed to be. And Viktor Frankl says this. He said, we had to learn ourselves, and we had to teach the despairing men that it did not matter what we expected from life, but rather to see ourselves as those who were challenged by life, and that our job was to find the best response to that situation that we were facing. That's maturity. Now, if they can do that in a Nazi death camp, guess what, folks? Let's get on with it, huh? Let's start growing up and letting go of these expectations and starting to learn how to deal with the situation as it is, rather than trying to turn it into what we think we need it to be okay. You see, that's the big lie that I accepted, that things have to be my way for me to be okay. That's not how we get okay. I get okay by figuring out how I can best deal with the situation, whatever it is, to be okay. So I'll give you a couple examples, well, at least one example of that, okay? There's many that I could pull from my life. I have two children. I have a 13-year-old and an 8-year-old. I'm divorced. When we were pregnant with our oldest, Madeline, my wife was working on her doctorate at UCLA in the B-cell lab, and I had a practice in Los Angeles. And so when she was pregnant, we were using the midwives at UCLA to help bring our child into the world. And if you go to UCLA, you go through a lot of testing, right? Because what they want to find out is if there's going to be a congenital birth problem, they first want to give you a choice. Do you want to continue with the pregnancy or terminate it? And if you want to continue, they want to mobilize, right, all the resources so that you hit the ground running and you're not trying to catch up all the time. It's a great way of approaching this. So we do all this testing. We meet with a genetics person. They take our family histories, and they take a bunch of blood from my wife at that time. They don't take blood from me yet, because it's very interesting. If she doesn't have any problem, it doesn't matter what's going on with my blood. Isn't that? It's interesting. Women have a lot of power, right? If there's nothing wrong with her, then I'm okay. So we're going to well baby visits. Everything seems to be fine. One day, I'm driving to Hermosa Beach. She's up at UCLA walking to her lab. The midwife calls her, says, can you come back? I didn't go over the results of your blood test. And she walks in the room, and she sits down with the midwife. She says, there's a problem. You tested positive for this gene that if your husband has it, there's a 25% chance that your child is going to be born with spinal muscular atrophy. Now, what that means is the child is unable to live if they're not on a ventilator. They don't have the ability to move their lungs. That whole wiring system's gotten messed up. Well, you can imagine what she's like 4 months pregnant and hears this news. She's devastated, right? She's crying. She leaves there. She calls me. She can hardly talk. I say, what's the matter? I turn around. I cancel all my clients for that day. I go back to UCLA, and I'm crying, and she's crying. What we say is the smarter you are, the more catastrophic your thinking can be. Right? Yeah, you're smiling. You know what I mean by that, don't you? That awfulizing. So I had a whole projection. She's going to, have the worst case. I mean, it's already done. We haven't even tested my blood yet, but I've already got the thing done. And then I started to fantasize things like, I don't know if you do this, but God is punishing me. Do you ever get into that thing? That's why this is happening, because of all the stuff. I'm finally getting paid back for all the bad stuff I've done. Oh, man, my head can go to some crazy places, right? So I go back. She's crying. I'm crying. They take my blood. It's going to take 6 weeks to find out if I've got that gene. So we go back to our apartment, pretty close to UCLA, and we're just beside ourselves. She's flooded with anxiety. I'm flooded. I hate anxiety. I don't know about you, but I can't stand it. And I'm flooded with it. I reach out to Tom, my sponsor, my buddies. Everybody's being wonderful. We got your back, Alan, but it's not taking the anxiety away because of the movie script I'm running in my head, right? So at that time, I was starting to look into emotional sobriety and writing about it and publishing books about it and talking about it. And I kept saying to myself, what's going on here, Alan? You're off balance. You just can't get your balance back. What can you do? Now, there are times when I go to sleep and I'm having a problem and I can't solve it, but something happens magical at night when you fall asleep. Scott Peck says, God speaks to us through our unconscious when we're sleeping. God speaks to us through our unconscious when we're sleeping. I didn't get much sleep that night. You know how it is when you're anxious, you fall asleep and you wake up and you fall asleep. But the next morning I got up and it was like I found freedom. I said to myself, I got it. What I'm doing is I'm letting this situation determine how I feel about what's going on. I stood back and I said, what is my truth? What is my truth? I want this child. I love this child. If God gives me this girl for 1.5 years, I'm going to love her a lifetime in 1.5 years. If she's got a lesser case of it, no child lived past 14, I will love her for those 14 years. It doesn't matter what happens. You see, at that moment, what I experienced was the freedom Bill talks about when he talks about emotional sobriety. I was okay even if my child had spinal muscular atrophy because my attitude changed. I accepted that this is the way it is, and I found the best way to deal with it. Instead of falling into self-pity and feeling bad about myself. My God, could you imagine a mess I would have made if I was drinking? Boy, I would have had a pity party, wouldn't I? Cases of booze and stuff. Invited all you guys over. Come on, let's go feel bad for Alan. I didn't have to do that. I found freedom. When I shared it with my wife at that time, it was like I handed her a pack of Xanax. A bar of Xanax, right? She had no more anxiety. It not only worked for me, Bill said this, that we and those about us find emotional sobriety. You see, when we're sick, we transmit that sickness. When I'm unhealthy, when I'm operating from the worst in me, my Mr. Hyde, as Bill calls it, I'm going to infect you with that. I'm going to be an asshole. I'm going to be demanding. I'm going to want things my way. I'm going to make you feel bad. I'm going to do all kinds of numbers. When I let the best in me do the thinking and talking for the rest of me, that also has an impact on you. And it had an impact on her. And now it didn't matter what was that blood test was going to show. I was able to let go of the results and live my truth. I could be okay even if she was going to have that disease. That understanding that I had to let go of expectations, because my good buddy, Dr. Harry Haratunian, who was the medical director of the Betty Ford Center, said to me, you know, Al, you didn't realize it, but you expected that you should have a right to a normal child. Where do I get claiming that special status? I'm a human being. I have genes, you have genes. Things happen. It's the true nature of our lives. My job is to deal with life as it is, not as I'd like it to be. That's what growing up is about. That's the promise that this program holds, but it's going to take you a lot of work to get there. It's not just an idea. It's a felt experience in here. That's what recovery is. It's a feeling of that freedom that I had. I was free, and that's happened we got divorced. It was a heck of a time. We've been divorced for 2 years now. I moved out here to help her take this job. Could I have gotten into, oh my God, look at what I gave up for you and all that stuff? Didn't turn out. I don't want to be married to someone that doesn't want to be with me. It took a while to wrap my head around that reality, but I am okay here. Because it's not where I am, it's who I am. It's not what's happening to me, it's how I deal with it. Life is what it is. It's how I cope with it that counts. Bill even said that. He says we can have this way of life regardless of worldly success or failure, regardless of sickness or health, regardless of, whatever happens to us. We can find a way to be okay, because your being okay depends on what you're doing, not what's happening to you. And that'll be the last thing I say. Is that okay? As if I'm going to listen to him, I just got to make him feel good sometimes that he's got some control. He's got some control over something in his life, right? Ron, right? You have some control, right? I'm starting to feel like Don Rickles up here. Oh my God. Don't do it, Alan. Don't do it. Stop. You're going to get in trouble. So, what I want to leave you with is that there's so much more to this program than just staying sober. Emotional sobriety is learning how to live differently. I hope I've given you some idea of what that looks like. To live differently. Meaning to let go of all of those, what we say are, until I let go of my old ideas, the result is what? No. But those are the old ideas, folks. That's what they're talking about. Now I've helped you see what those old ideas are. It's an incredible program. Because, where in the world, with one rose, you can get a whole rose garden? And that's what I found here. My one rose of emotional sobriety has helped me claim whatever experience is happening to me rather than letting that experience claim me. Just like I told you about what happened with Maddie. Now, it turned out I didn't have it. Maddie was born, and now she's a pain in the ass. She's 13. 13. Now I got to find, I'm okay even if my daughter says, I don't like you anymore, Dad. Okay, I understand you're mad at me right now. Stop, don't do that psychology stuff with me. I'm your daughter. I'm not paying you for this session. So you couldn't pay me. You don't have enough money in your bank account because you bought all that stuff. No, I didn't say that. Oh my God, my poor kids, right? He's going, God, your kids, poor kids, man, they got to put up with that crap.
No, they need you.
They do. And I know that what's really underneath that little girl, she really loves me a lot. So, it's been an unbelievable journey, right? 54 years. And I'll tell you, I'm as excited, if not more, about recovery today than I was when I walked in these rooms in 1971. Think about that for a minute. There's nothing about this getting old, because I still learn on a daily basis something more about how to live differently, how to challenge myself, how to deal with situations that used to before just baffle me and make me want to drink and use so I could have freedom. I don't have to do that anymore. The freedom is right here. The freedom is right in our program. Not only do we take a first step focused on our unmanageability to get to emotional sobriety, you work every step from that perspective of how is my emotional dependency affected my life. And if you do that, you'll start joining me right here in emotional sobriety, and I hope you do. Thank you for having me share.
Is there a doctor in the building? Let's give Dr. Alan Berger another round of applause. That was awesome. Phenomenal. Beautiful stuff. As a reminder, Food and Fellowship always starts at 8 o'clock. Come early. Be here with us early. Help us set up. Could always use help breaking down, too. Put all the chairs away. A lot of moving parts for any AA meeting, so get involved, please. We have a service commitment on Sunday nights. Come see us after the meeting. It's at a treatment center, 7 o'clock on Sundays in Quakertown. If you want to get involved with that, please see us after the meeting. Our speakers come here at their own time and expense, so it's customary us to form a line and thank them on a personal level. So we could form a line here in the front. And if you care to join us, we'll close with the Lord's Prayer. We'll have a brief moment of silence. Followed by our Lord's Prayer. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom,